Okay, we're back up again because the fire keeps moving. Welcome back to the Lookout. We report real-time intel from public sources and talk to you and teach you about what's happening with wildfire. My name is Zeke Lunder. We're coming to you from Chico, California. We got a new perimeter to share here from California State OES and CAL FIRE from their intel ships. This was over about 15 minutes ago. And major things that have happened in the last couple hours. The fire ran here down Temescal Canyon Road, kind of in a straight line. The alignment here was, the canyon's really aligned with the Santa Ana winds, and so the fire went through kind of the charter school here, Palisades Charter, and the Presbyterian Church from up by the Rivas Canyon Trailhead, and it ran down to the coast through the stadium by the sea. Don't have any word on structural losses at the charter school or along the way, but the problem with this kind of particular run is just that it's opened up this whole front here of fire in all these backyards now. And also showing spots out in the neighborhood here off of Haverford and North Mount Holyoke. So this is pretty much just happening in the last hour. Another thing that's happened in the last, say, hour or so is that the fire's pushed pretty hard here to the east into Rivas Canyon Park. As of about 4:30 p.m., it was hung up here on, or it was last mapped on the ridge here above Temescal Canyon Falls, and so it's pushed hard down. And so the problem with that also is just that with these strong east winds, northeast winds coming from about this direction, we've kind of got fire here kind of hanging above this whole neighborhood. So for reference, we're coming around here and looking west over Will Rogers State Historic Park and Inspiration Point view. This is the Rustic Canyon area down here. So that kind of brings you around. The fire hasn't grown much back to the north, around the summit, but it has grown aggressively here down to the coast at Will Rogers State Beach. Over here around the Getty Villa, it's pushed down closer to the coast. Down here, Parker Canyon. It doesn't show it kind of getting into really the main portion here of the Getty Villa, but it's into the landscaping, and don't know what's going on here yet with structures. Fire's pushed pretty hard down across Topanga Canyon Road, and it's into these neighborhoods here off of Castle Rock Road, West Clifftop, Kingsport. The mapping is of the perimeter of the fire. It doesn't mean that everything inside of this red area is on fire. It's just the perimeter as it's mapped. So the plane flies over and they kind of scan the edge of the fire, but there's often holes in there. Compton is safe. Someone asked if Compton's safe. Yes. So kind of for the big picture here. Here's Compton. Here's LAX, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills. So the fire's steadily been kind of fighting the wind to push towards the east, because the wind is coming out of this direction. But it is burning down here towards kind of Rustic Canyon. So big spread out here back to the north, like towards Crestwood Hills. It's not likely until, as long as the wind keeps being kind of dominated by the Santa Ana winds, the fire's not likely to kind of push in towards Brentwood in the near future. It is likely, though, to kind of continue to flank this way towards Riviera, and then as it flanks, be lined up to push down towards Rustic Canyon. As we mentioned in our earlier broadcast, as the fire is kind of active on these slopes, it's really difficult terrain for firefighting, and we expect the fire to keep pushing up towards eastern Malibu and Big Rock. These other colors we have in here are historic fires that have burned here. This green area burned in 1993. This area out here burned in the Woolsey fire in 2018. And we also have the Franklin fire that burned here around Malibu. That is going to kind of protect Malibu from this fire. So let's just pull up that. Get some freaky colors for here, though. Yeah, so we've got kind of an image here of in red that shows where the Franklin fire burned last month. And that kind of wraps a lot of Malibu. And so it's likely that this fire, if the Palisades fire does push all the way down to here, it's likely that this burn here on the Franklin fire will help kind of hold up this fire from getting down into Malibu. Someone said they heard there's a new fire in Pasadena. I'm not sure, I haven't looked, but I'll take a look in a minute here. As we mentioned earlier, this wind event's major. It's one of the biggest wind events in the last 15 years. And we expect that there will be other fires that start during this time in Southern California. So to recap here on Palisades, fires pushed down to the coast at Will Rogers State Beach. It's also down the coast here, kind of by the Bel Air Bay Club. Las Palmas Canyon Road. And it's down to the coast by Will Rogers State Beach, and fingers in many places down around Parker Canyon. So far, a lot of the homes in here haven't been impacted in Castella Mare, is that how you say it? Wakecrest Drive. And the fire hasn't burned much more up towards the summit area. But now that it's established here in Parker Mesa area, it's likely going to become well established into Topanga Canyon. And when the winds stop blowing out of the east, there may be a firefight of the fire trying to move back upslope away from the ocean. Gladstone Restaurant, close fire in Pasadena. Someone lives next to Ligeti in Brentwood. I think Brentwood's good to go for now. Fire's kind of pushing away towards the coast. Palisades Charter High School is burning, says Catberts. All right, going to jump over to a different website and see if we can find some info in Pasadena. You start above Altadena. Pinecrest, second alarm, huge Embercast. All right. Okay, yeah, so this is the new fire burning. This is burning above Pasadena, judging from here's Altadena. And let's just look at some animations here. All right, so fire starts showing up 20 minutes ago. All right, that's not good. So this is Pasadena. Let's look at this other view. So what we like to do is look at where the where these cameras cross. That often gives us kind of a an idea of roughly where it's at. So if that's where it's happening, it's probably in the wildland. We'll get the Pasadena one. Looks like bad news, and we don't have a real good location on it yet, but we'll see what we can figure out. This is the Watch Duty app. So this looks like it's Close Canyon at Altadena. And I'm a NorCal boy, so you have to pardon me limping around on the map here in SoCal. There's Pasadena, Altadena, Close Canyon. Canyon Close, sorry. All right, so they're saying Canyon Close Road in Altadena right here. So what we do here, we look at the winds. So the winds are coming kind of right out of the northeast, just like the other fire here. Over the mountains, they're blowing 60 miles an hour, and down in the flats, about 40. And so they're basically going to be blowing the fire into Altadena here. And so that's bad news, because this particular part of the world, it's got a lot of vegetation, larger lots. And once it's established in the neighborhoods and running with embers, if they don't pick it up quickly, it's just really difficult firefighting, and we got a lot of wind out ahead of us. So we'll go back and look at some more webcams. So that one. What else we got here? All right, so this is looking at across kind of north at the hills above Pasadena. So it looks like we've got the fire is spreading up the hill into the wind, and it's also blowing down. So that's kind of quite a spread for, you know, how long it's been burning. So it looks to me like the fire is going uphill this way, and then the wind is going to be carrying it this way, maybe. When these things are first starting out, we kind of just have to use a lot of different tools to get at what, kind of piece together what's happening. Get this camera here. Okay, well, that's another fire. And what else we got going on here? Back to Palisades. Homes around Palisades Charter School, along with the building on campus, are being impacted by the fire. It's moving west along the Pacific Coast Highway. Firefighters doing point protection, meaning they can't try to stop the spread of the fire. They can just protect key assets, impacting structures along Temescal Canyon between Sunset and PCH. Multiple buildings in the high school on fire. Fires moving east in the hills above. So the fire jumped Tuna Canyon. May need to expand the box to 405. They're having also problems with water pressure. Hydrants on Charmel are dry. Camp Fire has jumped Sullivan Fire Road in the area of Camp Josepho. So I said expand the box to 405. They're talking about this area out here towards Brentwood. All right. Well, deep breaths. So you get a lot of chatter and just got to kind of wade through it. A second here. Okay. Kinaloa Canyon area will be impacted in 20 minutes. Priority for structure defense. This is back to the close fire. Just west of Sullivan Fire Road. I'm guessing this is the Sullivan Canyon. All right, so that makes sense. They're saying that the fire's pushing out like into this area here above Sullivan Canyon Park. And this street over here would be Westridge Road and Bayless Road. So they really got their hands full, right? Like we got predominantly offshore winds, but that doesn't mean that the fire can't burn into the wind with the terrain. And these canyons are really rugged. And they haven't burned for a long time. So as we mentioned earlier, we've had a lot of fire history in Southern California, but a lot of this area hasn't burned since like the 1980s or even earlier. We're kind of looking at fires by decade here. And there's been no large fires here in this area out here since the 1970s. And this was the Mandeville Fire, 1978. So probably a lot of this land out here is going to burn now in this fire, if nothing else, just because the terrain and the fuels and the dryness and the fact that firefighters are going to be focused on protecting homes as much as they can. What do I think will happen in Sunset Mesa towards Topanga? All right. Real quick, want to let you know about the Lookout. Lookout is our website, and right now when things are hopping, we just do live streams because it's I don't have really any help right now to do production, this being the off season and everything. But just want to throw up. I've got PayPal and Venmo that really help out keeping the Lookout going. And if you check out the Lookout website, thelookout.org, we cover storms, we cover backcountry fires, we cover prescribed fires. We talk a lot about how fires are fought. I've been working in fire management for over 25 years in technology and mapping and in prescribed fire. And so we have a lot in here about how wildfire works. The ecology of wildfire, firefighting, fire tactics. You can kind of come in here and you can read about topics, fire education, fire behavior, fire ecology, firing operations. It's like the fires that we light when we're fighting fires. Got a lot on here. We got a lot of interviews. And so check out the Lookout. And if you like it, if you find it useful, consider becoming a subscriber here on the page. We're all 100% user supported. We say that we're kind of like the non-PIO or public information officers that aren't beholden to politics and telling the same story. Yeah, hit the like, follow us. Want to see maps, not smoke like other channels. All right, well, we got maps here. Like I said, this is the mapping from about an hour ago. And fire ran down Temescal Canyon to the coast, Will Rogers State Beach. It's run out here into Rivas Canyon. It's almost to Will Rogers State Park. It's burning into neighborhoods up here in Ridgeview Country Estates. Not a lot of spread in the center here from where it was earlier this afternoon, but the big growth is out here Temescal Canyon, across Topanga Canyon Road, and up on the top of kind of Parker Mesa Overlook. And we expect the fire growth to continue with the winds to burn towards Big Rock and Malibu. Like we said earlier, we expect that the Franklin fire from earlier this year is a fire break that's going to really protect Malibu. But you know, up here into Topanga, a lot of areas that haven't burned for a long time are going to be at risk over the course of the next week. New fire starting over here in Pasadena. We don't have a whole lot of mapping or anything on it yet, but in a bad spot. Can I talk about Rustic Canyon? Yeah. All right, so right now I'm going to pull up the winds. Let me do something here real quick with the maps. trying to kind of get a pacing going where, this is live. I am an analyst, so sometimes I got to just kind of take a minute to do the background stuff that makes it all possible, and then you guys can just watch me work for a minute. And yep, save that as. Right. All right. Okay, back at it here. So we've got Rustic Canyon down here. And this is showing the wind direction. And so right now the winds are 30 to 40 miles an hour coming out of the northeast. The fire's established up here around Will Rogers State Park and kind of Whitfield, the top of Pasadena Road. And so depending on how well they can kind of hold it at the edge of the city, depends on that. That'll kind of determine how much of the fire gets down into Rustic Canyon. So another view of it, kind of more in 3D. Winds are blowing this way. And the fire's kind of what we call overslung. So it's kind of a period of critical risk for this neighborhood. A lot will depend on how well they can secure the fire from getting into the neighborhood up here. And the problem is that it's established down in this, in Rivas Canyon. And what we talk about a lot in, I do urban fire hazard planning, basically. And these edges are the sketchy place, right? Because once a fire gets into the neighborhood and becomes established burning house to house, it's very difficult to fight. And so these places on the edge of the cliff are almost impossible to protect. It's almost impossible to cut the brush here without, a crew of goat men on ropes. And so these areas are also where the wind is blowing the fire towards the slope. And so when the fire gets into the neighborhood on these canyon edges, if it becomes established in the neighborhoods, it becomes very hard, especially at night. But it's difficult once the fire's in the neighborhood. So a lot of what happens in the next couple of hours as far as firefighting on the edge here is going to determine whether or not the fire really gets established into this whole area kind of between Sunset Boulevard and Will Rogers State Historic Park. Yeah, so here's Will Rogers here in Polo Fields. And right now the fire, so this mapping is about 45 minutes old, but the fire has actively moved kind of across the wind's coming from this direction. The fire's been actively kind of flanking just because it's got heavy fuel that hasn't burned for a long time. But this feature here along Temescal Canyon Road really shows the influence that topography can have on the spread of the wind and the fire. And so if the fire does become established up in here around Will Rogers, I think it's really likely that the fire will make a similar run down Rustic Creek out here to the ocean. Not to say that it's, if it does that, it's not to say that it's going to take out this whole neighborhood, but just that if it becomes well established up here, the funneling of the wind down Rustic Creek is going to want to blast. You can just really see this kind of bowling alley for the wind and the fire, and just the radical amount of vegetation mixed with homes is kind of a perfect setup here for a finger of fire to run down to the mouth of Rustic Canyon. So, not great. We'll have to see. Let's go back to our wind map and talk a little bit about the outlook there. Here you can just see that alignment of the winds. This is the wind speed right now, and you can see that alignment down the Rustic Canyon. Let's look out, say 6 hours. 6 hours is supposed to be stronger, 40 to 50 miles an hour, and 12 hours out, 50 miles an hour winds. So we got really strong, we got strengthening winds over the next 12 hours. And so it's just, if you're still out in this area, it's not going to get probably any easier to leave, and it's just going to get more dangerous. So pay heed to the evacuation warnings, but don't wait for someone to tell you. If you have embers, you know, if you feel, if the fire's coming to you straight from the wind, it's something you can taste. You know, you go outside and just looking at the evac zones here, it looks like this entire zone is mandatory. Yeah. Yeah, don't wait for anyone to come tell you to leave. It's a good time to get out early. Earlier is good. So right now the evac zone pretty much goes from almost San Vicente Boulevard. It's not into Brentwood yet. Barrington and Chenault. I don't know where that is. I don't give advice on evacuation. I say if you're in a zone, don't wait. And if you feel like you should leave, you should. Got to say also that these apps, there's all these different competing like commercial products that manage evacuation. There's Genesis, and there's I can't even remember all of them. And so they don't always talk to each other. They don't always get the information to you, and they don't always call it right away. So you got to use your own common sense too. Okay. Fire's 10 minutes from impacting Big Rock Drive. Where's that? Over here. It's moving then, folks, so it's already out here, close to Big Rock. Which is also in this mandatory evacuation. But if you're anywhere between the Franklin fire and this fire, you should be, and on the coast, you should probably be getting on the road. Fire at the Nature Center. Okay, so this fire in Pasadena is it's kind of booming. It's got so many webcams, hard to know where to look, but let's start off again with this one. So we're back over to Pasadena, where the sky is aglow. It looks like the bulk of the fire right now, it's pretty hard to tell. You got the fire's going two directions. It's running up the hill in the Los Angeles National Forest, and then the other part of it, you can see there's flames out here at 103.79. These webcams are crazy. It's something that's really changed so much. Okay, we got Verdugo Peak webcam. So what I'm trying to do right now is figure out where that fire in Pasadena is on the west side. And I'm looking out here where it looks like there's active flame. It's hard to tell, but yeah, it looks like we got flame out here. 103 degrees off Verdugo Peak. So we go into... So another great app I use is called Caltopo. And so you can do lots of cool stuff here. Like you can, we want to shoot a bearing off this peak of 103 degrees. And what that's going to do is basically look over here towards our fire in Altadena. So when we're seeing this fire here, what is that? Eaton, where'd that come from? These guys are fast too, so I don't know where that map's coming from. Just looking to see like how far is it into the city. It's over here, Eaton Canyon. So it doesn't look like it's necessarily too far into the urban area yet, but it's kind of threatening the Canaloa Mesa area. How do you think it'll go? All right, people. I see your questions, the tech questions. I can't really answer tech questions when I'm live. Sorry. Someone's asking about where I get the data. It's public. I create my own maps from public data that is on Intel sites, public sites. And you can contact me via the Lookout if you have technical questions, but I don't really like to bog it down on the broadcast. All right, I'm just going to see if there's any new mapping here. Looks like this mapping of the fire here is the same. It's the same stuff that we're using over in Palisades, and this was at about 20 minutes ago. The fire was still on the other side of the river here from Pasadena, so that's good news for now. And gravity's taken uphill. So we've been talking about fire history here, and oftentimes large fires are stopped by other recent large fires. So in this case, what's happened recently, we've got the 2020 Bobcat fire at the top of the hill. And that's the kind of most recent large fire that I've got in my mapping. So a 4-year-old fire definitely will help slow down a new fire just because there's not a lot of the brush. Sometimes there's a lot of grass in there. It doesn't stop a fire, but it can make it more fightable. We're going to jump in and look at the airplane traffic right now just because that oftentimes gives us a better idea of like where the edge of the fire is and how the firefighting's going. I need a new mouse here. Or a new mouse pad, maybe. All right, so there's no airplanes flying at dark, but there's some night flying helicopters here. Sometimes you can click on a track and see where they've been. Earlier in the day, there was a lot of helicopter activity here kind of below the summit, trying to keep the fire from spreading down and crossing Palisades Drive. And then if we go over to Pasadena, don't see any aircraft right now on the fire there. There's an LA County fire helicopter. Did some laps around, sussing out the fire, but now they're headed back. Multiple structures on fire on the west side of Pacific Coast Highway. Hydrants are dry. 1061 Glen Haven. All right, so this up here, so there's no water to say up here on Glen Haven Drive. Hydrants are dry and firefighters are pulling out. This per fire scanner. Losing tons of homes on the west side of Pacific Coast Highway. They're begging for help. Grounding all aircraft because it's too windy and not effective at all. Parking helicopters. Yeah, so it's things are really falling apart, right? And this is really what happens when we have these major fire events like the campfire. Is there's only so much you can do, and after almost 10 hours of firefighting, water tanks run dry, homes burn, all those water pipes leak water, and things fall apart. So it's gonna be a long night for anything out in this area here. Anything, especially anything west of the stuff that's already on fire. Fire's already out here moving into Big Rock area. It's going to continue to move up the coast towards the Franklin fire. Decent odds it'll hang up here at the Franklin fire. I was looking for a perimeter for Franklin just so I could see better than this kind of scratchy old one I've got, just to see how far Franklin comes down the coast. Haven't found that yet. If you got one, email it to me. And if you're watching this wondering how your house is going to do, yeah. Someone's asking if the Getty is okay. So this mapping we have here is from about an hour ago. Where's the Getty proper? I don't know. All right, well that Getty's all right for the foreseeable future. The Getty Villa had fire getting in around it an hour ago, and I don't really have any update on the status, but it's in a bad spot with all this brush all the way around it. I'm not sure how long the live stream will go. It's kind of hard to know when to stop and when to refresh the map. Sounds like things are really dynamic right now. I got a friend out on the ground, Michael Steinberg, who he's got live stream media, and maybe we'll check and see if he's up and streaming, because he's the guy on the ground. He's a NorCal storm chasing, actually. This guy's worth a follow. Michael Steinberg. He might have a different channel though. It looks like looks kind of stale. NorCal storm chasing. Here you go. Yeah, check him out. He streamed a little earlier, and but yeah, look up NorCal storm chasing. Give that a follow. It's good info. Jump back in here. See what's happening over in Twitter land. All right. All right. 200 acres there for the Eaton fire. So back to the map real quick to show you what's going on with the Eaton fire. We're here in Pasadena. Eden Fire's getting established on the mountains, but it's got potential to push here into Pasadena area. All right, people. Don't mind the trolls in the comments. They don't work for me. All right, we're just flying around here now. I'll go back here and see if they've updated any of the mapping. So like I said, this mapping's from about an hour ago. Got all these webcams on here now. Housekeeping. Red means burned. Paseo Miramar. Yeah, I'm taking some requests here. We're on Paseo Miramar. Here's Paseo Miramar. Like we said before, the red shows where the fire has burned, but not necessarily where homes have burned. But fire is within that area. Gonna sweep down Laurel Canyon. I don't know. It's a long time ago. Or it's a long time. Laurel Canyon's a long way from the fire still. Winds are supposed to keep increasing. All right, we're going to do a little refresh here on the map. No change. So we're not going to probably get a new perimeter for a while because they've grounded all the airplanes because of the super high winds. All right, so talking about the winds. Here's the Eaton Fire over in Pasadena. Here's the wind plot. This is 12 hours out. They're saying the winds are going to be 50 miles an hour tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, they're slacking a bit down to 25 or 30. And right now, winds in Pasadena are kind of between 40 and 60. And the wind direction here on this Eaton Fire is not good. And it just kind of points straight into Pasadena area. Casa Grande. And right now they can't use any helicopters over most of this because the winds are just too intense. And this is what happens during Santa Ana. It's like things break down. We know this. And this has happened many times. Over here right now, the winds are 60 mile an hour offshore at Malibu. They're around 40 miles an hour offshore at Palisades, and in between, they're kind of in between that. So around Big Rock right now, 50 miles an hour. Wind's blowing the fire generally this way, but the terrain is, the fire is going to kind of do its thing with terrain and keep moving towards Malibu. Mark Cato, stirring it up in the comment section. Today's California's 107th day after its birthday, and it's 107, all the numbers. Our friends, this is what they do. All right. Yeah, so I'm not really able to predict where this thing's going this way. All I know is that the winds are supposed to keep doing the same thing. So if you live 90 degrees off the wind direction out here, you're better off than if you're downwind of the fire. And it's about as scientific as I can get with this. All we can say is that what we know about fuels out here is just that there haven't been fires in this area kind of between the fire and basically the other side of the mountains here for a long time, going out towards the Getty above Crestwood. Like, long time no fire, lots of fuel, and same out here. So fire's going to keep moving, and we're going to have new fires, and they're going to gobble, and we're not going to stop them until the wind stops blowing. So if there's a fire upwind of you, leave as soon as you can. If a new fire starts upwind of you, if you go outside and the smoke's blowing straight over your house, that means the fire's upwind of you. Lots of resources coming. Not a lot they can do until it happens. Someone says if you see melted car engines tomorrow, you know how it all started. I don't know if that's a reference. Is that a reference to like Jewish space lasers and directed energy weapons? Love that. Love that conversation. Space lasers. George Soros. Yep. United Nations. What is it? Agenda 21. Smart cities. Yep. Hillary Clinton. You guys are awesome. Do we know how it started? Space lasers. For sure. I'm joking. I don't believe any of that shit. Who needs space lasers when you got Santa Anas and God creating abundant vegetation? All right. Stay safe. If you get burned out by this fire, maybe take all the money from that big house and move somewhere that isn't in Santa Anas. But this whole thing of like fire burning into poorly planned neighborhoods that are primed for catastrophic fire and then rebuilding the exact same thing, we keep doing that and it's not working out. So places like this should have never happened. No one should have ever built all these fancy houses in this canyon that aligns with some of the most severe fire weather on Earth. So this whole thing, Palisades strong and all that, these places, they're some of the highest wildfire risk places on the planet, and maybe we shouldn't rebuild some of these places unless you're gonna dig into the ground like a hobbit and Earthship or something. But freaking crazy, man. California not taking care of its overgrowth, says Daniel Davis. I guess, Daniel, I'm curious what your plan is here with the overgrowth. What do you think we should do about it? I'd love to hear a realistic, reasoned perspective on your proposal for how we're going to manage 30 million acres of wildland. Yep. Or someone wants me to cut the arm waving and focus on the fire path and safety. Fire's going to keep blowing towards the ocean. Anywhere between the fire and the ocean is not safe right now. And anywhere, I'd say, like, anywhere from San Vicente, heed the warnings on the evacs. But if you're anywhere between the 405 and this fire, you should be very heads up. And at least down to here, down to San Vicente Boulevard. But also be heads up for the fire that hasn't started yet, because there's going to be more fires that start, and it's really dangerous wind. And don't assume that firefighting is going to be at all effective under these conditions until the winds stop blowing. All right, so we'll look at the Pasadena fire. I just want to jump out real quick, show something I showed earlier, just to kind of set a little bit of like expectation of what this fire is all about. Is just that this is a map of all the fires that have happened in Southern California in the last 100 years. And from San Diego up, and it's a pretty crazy map, right? But it just shows you that none of this is unprecedented. We've had big fires that have burned massive acreages in SoCal, and if you break it down by decades, it's super inevitable. These are fires in the 2020s, 2010s, 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. All right, just all kinds of fire in this landscape, and so it should be no surprise. And the places that are at the highest risk of burning up are the places that have not had fire in 100 years. So that includes where we're talking about right now. And there was a fire here that burned down towards Big Rock in 1993. Burned this whole area, the old Topanga fire. Big fire. And so what those fires tell us is they basically tell us the potential that and that fire burned in 1st of November, right? So Santa Ana winds, dry fall conditions. And that's what those big fires tell us, is that when the Santa Anas blow in an area that hasn't burned for a long time, like this area here hadn't burned since the 70s. So it's due. All right. Someone's asking when the maps will be updated in the morning. It's kind of a function of if the winds die down that they can fly safely. When we look at the flight maps, compared to the middle of the day, they're pretty quiet because all you see is big jets flying. But there's not a lot going on with the helicopters or the smaller airplanes, just because it's dangerous for them to fly. We've got this this plane here. Might be a mapping flight. Where are they coming from? Coming from Lancaster. That might be a mapping flight here for Pasadena. Van West. California needs to do better forest management. Well, tell us about it. Guan Hong says, what map are you using to see the fires? I'm just going to type in All right. I'm putting a link in there for where you get the maps, but you got to be a techie. If you can figure it out from that, then you're good to go. All right, man. What are we doing here? All right. All right, people. Let's see if we got any new maps here. Yeah, no new maps. All right. You guys just get to watch me drive the computer here. This whole business is kind of, sometimes it's boring, sometimes there's a lot going on, and you just kind of wade through storytelling. All right, so it's Eaton 1, Pasadena. We're just kind of looking here the direction of the wind coming out of there, and a lot of vegetation in the neighborhoods, you know. That's the tough thing. It's just that the edge, like we talked about earlier, this edge, it's the vulnerable part is when the fire can get up in the neighborhood and then just be an urban fire. Yeah, so subscribe to the channel if you can. Helps people find us. We are 100% user supported. I, in fact, have a major announcement. I quit my job yesterday. I've been working a full-time job and doing the lookout, and I quit my job yesterday to work more on the lookout. So, and then here we go. So we survive on subscribers, and we're going to need more of that. Because I just gave up a steady paycheck to this lookout. It's my passion project. So if you can, you want to help me make this transition, become a member of the lookout subscribers via PayPal. Because I want to do this more, and I don't want to go back to being a full-time wildfire consultant. I want to do this stuff direct for you guys. It's the most fulfilling stuff. The planning's great, but we plan all these projects, do everything we can to increase community safety, and then we still have these big fires that are taking out communities. So we got to do something different. We can't just keep doing the same stuff. So right on, man. Right on, y'all. Check out the page. As I have more time, and we're talking about doing a podcast. Got a lot of videos that are on forestry and prescribed fire. I'm a burn boss up here in Butte County, and we do a lot of prescribed fire in the winters, and that's part of the solution. It's not going to solve the problems in Southern California and the brush and the urban interface, but it might help us save some of the forest we have left. So I'm working on focusing more on telling stories about prescribed fire, and yeah, look out full time. Appreciate all your guys' support. Chico, California. Guess what I got to figure out is how to keep these little PayPal thingies going in YouTube. See, I can find my banker. Anyway. All right, back to the map. You guys can look at something else while I build out to look out. So this is where the fire was an hour and a half ago now. Sorry, I got no Patreon. There's a kind of a limit to how many things I can juggle. But right now, YouTube, the webpage, and especially Twitter, on there is Wildland Zico, ZKO. And what I got here? Got no idea if that will actually work for anyone on their TV, but why not? Right on. I appreciate all you guys. I'm seeing some donations pop up here, and it's freaking great. A big part of what we do here is wildfire education, and we got some videos here that we're sharing on our YouTube that we've done on Southern California specifically. We've got, let's see, Tim Chavez. Tim Chavez explains Santa Ana winds. That's what's happening right now, and it's a great little primer on the weather phenomena that cause what's happening right now, and ways that you can kind of like sites for forecasting. I put a little link up there to Chavez. Chavez is amazing. He's and there's links in this video about from the discussion from some of the tools he uses to understand the hazard. We also have Borzier, line fire with Don Borzier. He's a wildfire analyst. I've worked with on wildfires over the last 20 years, and he kind of broke down ways that his company writes pre-fire plans. But those, if you look up on our YouTube, we've got a playlist for interviews. Look at interviews. And but like I said before, we feel like wildfire is such a critical issue that everyone needs to know more about it. We got a lot of uninformed kind of banter and bullshit politics that come out during wildfire about blaming everyone else for the problem, and a lot of it's this physical and social problem of how our landscapes are, how we've built on our landscapes, how we've failed to plan for wildfire, how we've kept fire out of places that need fire, and then also how, taking all the big trees out of the equation over the last 100 years with logging has also changed the way that the forests work and their resiliency to fire. So you can view this later, but I suggest check out the lookout, check out the playlists. We've got fire history, we've got interviews, wildfires, got stuff on wildfires we've covered. We've covered a lot of them. We've got stuff on the prescribed burn associations we're working with up here, doing prescribed burns on people's property without much help from the agencies. And we got stuff on climate and weather and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, check it out. We'll go back to covering this now. But thanks for joining the Lookout. Hope you enjoy it. Subscribe and tell your friends. And we got bling, too. If you check out our website, we've got the Lookout hats. We've got Lookout t-shirts, Lookout stickers, all kinds of good stuff. All sorts of different flavors. Pasadena fire is in Melanie's mom's neighborhood. Sorry about that, Melanie. Right. So what else we got here? There's kind of a few different ways that we can map fires. There's these heat satellites that you may have seen, the dots on various different websites. Those only go over a couple times a day, and they're kind of wildly inaccurate sometimes, depending on where they're flying. So like this said here earlier in the day that the fire was like here and all the way over in Brentwood Park, and it's like that's usually not the case when you see like stuff sprinkled all over the map. And so if someone sends you a map and says like, hey, look, the fire's in your neighborhood, it's got these big squares on it, oftentimes like we always try to confirm those types of data with other observations like the webcams or people we know on the ground or something, because a lot of the stuff is being shot from satellites like thousands of miles out in space. And sometimes, this satellite that shows you these dots here, it might be like orbiting over Colorado or something. And so smoke in the air and everything's throw that off. So we try to, tell you where the data is coming from. This data is coming from CAL FIRE and the Office of Emergency Services. They've got a new plane service that they fly. It used to be that we'd only get mapping really like twice a day, or when people flew it at night and at midnight, and from people who came in from the fire line. Now there's a lot of this kind of military technology being applied to wildfire intel, and we can get perimeters oftentimes, every couple hours. So it's changed, but I think what you got to say about this wildfire technology is, I started my career, we didn't have real-time intel, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have DC-10 air tankers, and the fires were a lot smaller. So there's been this huge acceleration in firefighting technology over the last 30 years, and the fires are still either as big as they were before or larger, because no amount of technology can stop a fire like this. And so in a lot of ways, there's a lot of interest right now in new technical solutions that will eliminate the wildfire threat. And it's just not physically possible, because these are calamities that occur at an atmospheric scale, right? Like if we look at, there's a website we can check out here. This hasn't been updated for days, it looks like. Where's my wind data? All right, yeah, that's more like it. So this is a wind map. You got the whole west coast here. Santa Ana winds happen when you've got low pressure offshore and high pressure in the interior of the continent, and these winds come squirting out here. And so this event's been forecast for days. It's atmospheric physics, right? And so heavy brush, Santa Ana winds that are predictable, and we know they happen every 10 to 20 years. Like, there's no amount of technology that's going to change. We don't try to stop hurricanes. We don't try to stop tornadoes. But somehow wildfires, there's like this fascination right now in the tech world with stopping wildfires. There's people like putting jet engines on tops of Hummers and saying that they're going to blow out fires, that they're going to like have a fleet of these autonomous Black Hawk helicopters that are going to run laps and like stop a Santa Ana. It's just not happening. So we can spend millions of dollars on stuff like that, or we can acknowledge that this stuff happens and that we can't stop it, and there's nothing in our power that's going to stop that. And maybe we should like build all of our houses out of concrete, or dig them into the earth in the places that are like this, because these places, like, the wind is part of the landscape here. There's always been wind here. Anyway, I don't have much more intel for you guys right now. Got to rest up a little because it's going to go on for a while. So all we can say to close it out is pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on tonight. If you wake up and smell smoke and there's smoke, you're downwind from smoke, like, see what you can do to figure out what's going on. Someone's saying that the brush at the Getty Villa caught fire, but the building didn't. Comment here, that's why St. Louis is a brick city. Fires, yeah. Yep. Appreciate your guys' help, your support. I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to leave the map up for a little while. And feel free to peruse it. I'll get back on in the morning and do another one. The red, the bright red is where the fire was earlier, and then the lighter red they're kind of overlapping polygons that they've mapped. So red is where it was earlier. It doesn't really, and everything red is inside where the fire has been. All right, come back on for a little while. It's the lookout. If you're just coming in to see us here, this is the Lookout channel, and we do open source wildfire intelligence. I've been doing wildfire mapping and forestry and other fire-related work for the last almost 30 years. And so this is kind of my side gig. Name's Zeke Lunder. I live in Chico, California. And Lookout started during the 2021 Dixie Fire, which burned all around the town I was from. So you can check out the lookout.org. It's our website. We don't always have up to the minute stuff on there, but we have a lot of our archive. But during active fires, a lot of what we're doing is using open source fire intel. So I was just looking at I've got a layer here that shows where all the webcams are, and I was just trying to figure out from this webcam of Pasadena, looking across from College Hill, shows this Eaton fire going up the mountain, and what I was trying to figure out was if it's into the urban area yet. So I was seeing on this, you could see these hot spots out in here on the camera. And so I was just kind of doing what traditionally what fire lookouts did. They sat on top of mountains, and they had a little firefinder thing that was basically a surveyor's kind of ring, a scope basically, and they pointed at the fire. So we do the same thing with the webcams. So I pulled an azimuth. What's cool about these webcams, the Alert California webcams, is if you point your little arrow on the screen, down here in the corner it tells you the compass direction that you're looking. So right here we're looking at 338 degrees off College Hill. Got this cool app here called Caltopo. So I found the webcam location. I've got some mapping of all those. Shot that azimuth out, and basically it's showing that this is where the fire's already been mapped. The fire's going up the hill here. It's a little bit sheltered from the big downsloping winds. And so what that is showing me is that when you see that line of fire that's kind of on this webcam right now in Pasadena, it's not out in the urban area. It's that bearing basically is still in the brushlands. So, if we pulled that azimuth and we see it's going out straight out through here, then we have a better idea where the fire is. But early on in these big fires, when we don't have a lot of mapping to work with, we'll take what we can get. So oftentimes that's just, picking yourself a webcam. And as you can see on this map, this shows where all the different webcams are aimed right now. There's a lot of them. So, if you look off Mount Wilson, you see one angle. At night, fires always look bigger than they really are. It's kind of a rule of thumb with firefighting is, if someone calls in a size up for a fire at night, that oftentimes, even for really experienced people, oftentimes the fire will look, 5 times larger than it really is. So fires shrink with daylight, and especially these kind of infrared cameras, oftentimes you look at them at night and all you see is just this big kind of scary looking blob. Anyway, someone wanted us to fly the coast here, looking at the fire. Holy smokes. Okay, well, this is the view from the County Fire Department Hell Base at, I don't even know where it is. All right, so that view there is the view from LA County Fire Department Hell Base 69, right? So we're looking from right up here down towards the coast. going on with my labels here? They're all over the place. There we go. So that kind of tracks where the fire was mapped earlier. So this kind of hot spot here, 125. So this hot spot we're seeing in the fire is kind of the fire boiling up in this gap. Tuna Canyon Road. So this is kind of the sausage being made here. I know it's not always the most interesting thing to watch, but this is kind of how we figure out what's going on. Is we have to kind of do the work. Can't all be kind of presentation. There's a lot of just kind of sleuthing around. Peak. Trying to get an idea of how far the fire spread up the coast right now. Live updated map. Not sure what we've got right now for updates because they haven't been flying anything because it's too windy. But we're looking at using right now this Saddle Peak camera and where it's showing the heat to look at how far the fire's gone up the coast. So I'm just trying to nail down the location of that lookout, which is a little confusing here. If I load all the webcams into my regular map, it kind of makes it too complicated. So there we go. There, okay, now we're talking. Saddle Peak. All right, so according to the where we're seeing the heat on Saddle Peak, the fire is into Big Rock on the coast. And that's based on basically looking at this camera, seeing where it's showing the glow out here, which is about 140 degrees. And then pulling that line off of the, pulling that line off. So yeah, we're at 146 degrees now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like the fire's kind of all it's probably through Big Rock by now, moving up the coast. So to look at that in our 3D view, it's basically kind of likely through this whole area. And as we were saying earlier, it's just this topography makes it pretty much impossible to fight the fire, especially under these conditions, because the fire can just run with gravity up the slope, spot over the ridge, and then the high winds carry it into the next drainage, and it just kind of keeps leapfrogging its way that way. And so that's why we say it's not unlikely that it'll bump into the Franklin fire. And like I said earlier, we're trying to find mapping from this year's Franklin fire. And I was having a hard time finding it because it happened in last year. The site that has all the current year data doesn't have it in there. So it's kind of a pain. It's also a pain to have like these 10 zillion webcams all lined up here. All right, so as far as what the fire's doing over here on Rustic Canyon side, it's kind of hard to see from a lot of the webcams. Like this one in Santa Monica kind of doesn't have very good, dang, that's dramatic. We're gonna look at the last hour here from Santa Monica. So that's 352. Wilshire camera is at Wilshire and Ocean Ave. There's your webcam. All right, so based on this view from Wilshire, it looks like the fire has kind of moved through Will Rogers State Park, like it's out into here. And that would be 1, 2, 3 air miles basically from downtown Santa Monica. So it would mean the fire's kind of out into here, which puts it in a position to kind of run Rustic Canyon with the winds tonight. Freshwater Fly is my son. He's holding down the moderation, looks like. Thanks, Jasper. You're awesome, kid. All right. Wilshire. Okay, well, let's look some more cams. You know, the night of that the park fire took off here in Chico, the webcams, sometimes the stuff's mind-blowing, you know, at night. How far things can move, and you know, yeah. So just kind of takes a little doing, and thanks for your patience watching the sausage get made here. So you know, we get used to these fresh perimeters coming from airplanes and everything, and then sometimes they can't fly, or they have technical problems with the airplanes. These systems are really complicated, and you know, kind of the definition of a disaster is like things are falling apart, like systems break down. A disaster is an event that overwhelms society's ability to manage it, right? So this whole field of disaster management that, you know, I've worked in and a lot of us have worked in it's kind of an oxymoron in that you're trying to reduce the harm, save as many people as you can, but the disaster is basically managing you, and you're trying to keep your people safe and do what you can. And that's what's happening with firefighting right now. So what always happens during fires like this is we focus on life safety. We focus on evacuating people, saving people, saving other firefighters that become trapped. Putting the fire out itself becomes a second priority to minimizing the casualties. All right, more webcam action. What, can we get a different view? So we got these two different views here. What we need to be able to see in this way. And sometimes it's amazing that, like with as many cameras as we have, that we still have these blind spots on the landscape. Okay, so to summarize what we know right now, just based on kind of the webcam action, is that the fire is basically kind of out This is like really wild guess. It's kind of something like this. I'm not going to draw the rest of it. That's just kind of the, this is a guess at this moment. And we'll make that a different color because we have no idea really. So purple is my wild ass guess based on a couple webcams. Red is what we know was mapped like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. So Big Rock to Will Rogers State Park. Don't know really what's happening down in this area within the burn. But it's kind of got it coming from all sides. So a lot of firefighters out there trying to do what they can. But there's no strategic kind of action happening right now that we're going to build a line from here to here and we're going to stop it. They've got problems with water. They got problems with access. And so kind of no knowing tonight really what's going to happen in these areas within the perimeter that haven't burned yet. But likely there will be large areas in here that don't burn. That's my guess. I wouldn't assume that this entire area is going to be like the campfire in the morning, but I'm not on the ground. I really have no idea. And there'll be other people posting stuff on live streams and everything else tonight that will give a better idea. It's hard to get that cohesive big picture view. No one really has the good big picture view right at this moment. We just kind of guess and put together stuff. The radio traffic is really informative, and it's really kind of scattershot. You get specific things that are happening, specific spots, and it's really hard to tie it all together. So go back and look at Pasadena a little bit, see what we can learn about what's happening here on the Eaton fire. Do a little more kind of webcam sleuthing here. And let's look at so this website I shared earlier, wildfireintel.org. It's a great forum. It's mainly for firefighters and people who really know a lot about stuff. If you don't really have much background in fire, I recommend not starting to post a lot on this forum, just because it's really kind of a experts forum. A lot of great intel from people that know a lot about things and a lot of nuance. So I'd say it's a good spot to lurk, but don't get too excited and start like typing in everything you hear on the radio, because there's some good stuff. A lot of people on this forum have been on for 20 years. Okay, now a lot of new intel on Eaton. What he's got to say about Palisades. All right. Okay, let's go back to College Hill here. It was a good view across. Looks like the bulk of that Eaton fire is still kind of going up the mountain, which is good. Pretty murky. Let me turn off these things here. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're covering Eaton fire that's burning near Pasadena. We don't have a lot of good information right now. Planes have been grounded for the most part due to high winds. The fire, as far as we can tell from the webcams, has been mainly moving up the mountain, which is good. But with the winds being strong and coming this direction, if it gets into these neighborhoods, it could be really bad news. Don't have a lot of good information right now on that fire. We'll kind of do a refresh in a minute and see if we got anything new on our main mapping feed. But right now there's not a lot of airplanes flying just because of the winds, except all these big jets. They can handle it. See what old watch duty has going on here. Pulling up an LA City evacuation map. There you go. This is just the city, not the county. So they're pretty much evacuating most of it. The city north of San Vicente Boulevard and up to the ridge of what is this? Up towards Mountain Gate. We got orders evacuated in Santa Monica. Some of these are advisory. So watch duty is a good place to get your evacuation maps. What's going on here, people? Fire coming up the mountain. Okay. All right, too much data, people. Too much data. Holy smokes. Let's see all the cameras at once. Somehow I messed up the view. All right. I think it's time to go to bed, folks. I'll see you in the morning. Good luck out there. And yeah, if you want to donate to the Lookout, there's our PayPal and Venmo, and we appreciate the support. And I'll be back on in the morning. And if you're out there, good luck to y'all.
SWB audio capture, not registered.